Stop doing these 5 things when it comes to Pokemon card investing. Hey, if you're new to the channel, my name's Michael. We talk all things Pokemon card investing on this channel. A little bit about my background. I'm a Toyota car salesman and I've been doing it for near on 10 years now. I've been investing in Pokemon cards on and off out of the hobby for a very long time, and particularly got into sealed collecting investing about 6 years ago. So let's just jump straight into number 1. The first thing I want you to stop doing is stop stressing about entry point price. Now, this might sound a little bit counterintuitive, so bear with me here while I present the argument. I'm not saying just buy whatever at whatever price. Like, don't just go and overpay for everything. But what happens is, and I've been caught out with this mistake too, so I want to give you an example from myself, but people always stress about entry point price. What's more important is finding a good set. If it's a good set and a good product, yes, the right price is certainly going to help, but don't stress about entry point price. And here's my argument that I want to present. This is Evolving Skies up on the screen here. I don't think anyone that bought Evolving Skies, looking back now, would have stressed at the end of 2021 if they'd paid $110 for a booster box or $160 5 months later in April next year. Like, that wouldn't really have mattered to people. And that's what I mean by that argument. Stop stressing about the entry point price. Why? Because the overall definition of investing is about letting something appreciate over time. The key word there being time. I think the only people that really care whether they buy something at $100 or $120 for a booster box, or with new pricing at the moment, $180 or $210 a booster box, are those people that are making really, or wanting to make really short-term gains when it comes to investing in sealed product. People that essentially just want to flip it or make quick money and then exit the Hobbit. Geez, what are we talking, Lord of the Rings? There you go. There's one of the classic slip-ups. That just proves that I do all these videos in one take and don't edit anything. So there's one for the record books there. It'd actually be cool to make a little mashup of all the tongue twists and stuff ups I've done on this channel. Those people that want to exit the hobby, not Hobbit, those people that want to exit the hobby really quickly, like in a 6-month or 12-month period, and just flip the product and make quick money. Investing is about long term. Evolving Skies now, like I said, doesn't matter whether you paid $110 in December 2021 or you paid $160 5 months later. Like, I get it. Those of you that might want to turn a $200 box into a $400 box, it's very different paying $200 versus $300. But for me, I have a long-term strategy when it comes to investing. I don't think we should be checking every day, every week, every month, how our progress is going, expecting to make quick gains. And stressing about entry point, I said I'd give you an example of where I stressed about entry point. So rewinding back to 2020, Darkness Ablaze had just come out. Rebel Clash was touted as not a good set, and that was a slow burner. A couple of Sun and Moon later sets had just copped small reprints, sets like Unified Minds and Unbroken Bonds, etc. And I bought up Unbroken Bonds, Unified Minds, and even a Cosmic Eclipse booster box. Now, Cosmic Eclipse reprint was so tiny, it didn't even dent the price point of Cosmic Eclipse. Down here in Australia at the time, and I'll convert it to US dollars, Cosmic Eclipse was about $400 in 2020 Australian, which worked out to be about $260 to $280 US dollars, depending on the exchange rate at the time. The reprint of Unified Minds and Unbroken Bonds was quite small. It ripped prices back up pretty quickly by 2020. And those boxes were probably sitting somewhere around the $200 to $250 US dollars. The hype was starting as well, don't forget, due to COVID. So booster box prices were starting to tear up pretty quickly, and new booster box prices were pretty expensive. But anyway, I bought all 3 of those for what I thought was a very reasonable price. And at the time, Team Up, which was a slightly older set, so it was the first tag team Pokemon card set out of the 4, it was sitting at about $600 to $650 Australian dollars, which if you convert that to US dollars in 2020 was about $400 Australian dollars. And I remember at the time I was just like, oh man, it's just a touch expensive. Like, maybe I shouldn't pull the trigger on it because it's too dear. And I didn't. And I mean, look at it now. That's case in point. And same with Evolving Skies. Like people that go 400's too dear, 500's too dear. I want to wait for it to come down. Like surely $800, it's going to regress back to $500. Surely then I'll buy it. And it just hasn't. It's just kept going up and up and up, other than the slight retraction that it's seen in the last month. Right, well there you go. That's number one. Stop stressing so hard about entry point when you're holding long term. Number two, FOMO, the fear of missing out. And here's probably one of the best modern examples. This has literally been playing out the last month, and that is buying chase cards too early. Don't stress about picking them up in the first week or fortnight or month. It's just madness in my opinion. The chase card will come down. Why? Because more supply hits the market. Why does more supply hit the market? Because more and more packs get ripped. More and more boxes get opened, and as a result, more chase cards hit the market. And as more hit the market, what happens? Supply increases. And unless we see an equal increase in demand, then pricing will come down. It's a very simple supply-demand metric. And here's the Charizard up on the screen here from obviously the all-new set Phantasmal Flames. At release, it was like $1,500. Then it became $1,200. And then quite quickly after a week, it came down to $750. And I remember a lot of people commenting on my videos or even shooting me emails saying, is the Charizard from Phantasmal Flames a good buy now that it's pretty much halved in value? It's gone from $1,500 in the first week out to a fortnight later being $750. And I said, no, like do not buy that card at that price. It's 1 in 400 pull rates. Yes, it's a phenomenal looking chase card. We all get that. He's one of the greatest Charizard artworks we've ever seen. Definitely of the modern era. It's a beautiful, beautiful card. Can it outlast a 1 in 400 pull rate with the amount of packs getting ripped at the moment? No, it can't. And already 3 weeks later, we're sitting at $580. So if you'd bought it 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago at $750, you'd be battling, wouldn't you? Because already it's nearly dropped $200 in that time. So there's the FOMO example I want to share with you. Like just don't. And the other side of that is the PSA 10 prices. People that are paying massive, and I get it. Okay, you want to be the first person to have it. Like, I don't know, who are you going to tell? Who's going to care that much that you have it before 1,000 other people in PSA 10 copies a month later? Like, just hold on, because PSA 10 prices command an even stronger premium in the first few days, few weeks of a new set coming out with new chase cards. Literally in 6 months' time, I've talked about this before, I see this Charizard being a $300 to $350 card. So even at $580, I know it's leveled out a little bit, but I wouldn't stress, more and more Phantasmal Flames will get ripped. There's so many of those ultra premium collections out there. There's so many booster boxes, packs everywhere. It's the first set in a long time that I've actually been able to go to any store around my local area and be able to buy Phantasmal Flames packs if I want to. I haven't seen that in so long. The second example, this is a two-part point, FOMO. Like, stop buying into FOMO. The second point is buying into cards that get absolutely hyped. And hyped due to buyouts. There were coordinated buyouts of certain Scarlet and Violet, both illustration rares and special illustration rares, in the last 12 months. Probably one of the best examples is this card on the screen here, the Drowsy from Scarlet and Violet base set. Like, I get this was almost the epitome of what the Pokemon Company was trying to achieve when it comes to illustration rares. Like, this is the artwork. This is the illustration rare style. And Drowsy epitomized it, but it's not a fan favorite Pokemon. It's just not. And I hate using this term, but there's only so much you can polish a turd, isn't there? It was a $15 card forever and a day, and then all of a sudden it was climbing rapidly all the way up to $80. There were people buying it at 40, there were people buying it at 50, there were people buying it at 60, 70, even people buying it at $75, pushing this all the way to $80. And it just didn't deserve to be there. Why was that happening? Because people were making the mistake of FOMOing. They were buying into this buyout that was coordinated and happening. And all of a sudden, what do you see now? It's retracted to probably a place where it deserves to be, which is about a $30 card. I did plenty of videos around buyouts, and in particular this Drowsy I used an example. And I asked the question, like, what price do you think this card deserves to be at? Based off the artwork, based off the Pokemon, based off the pull rates, based off the conversion rate to a PSA 10. They're the 4 factors you should work off when it comes to figuring out what card a price should have. And that Drowsy just did not in any way, shape or form deserve to be an $80 card. And I said for ages, it deserves probably to be like a $30 or $35 card. And that's where it seems to have ended up. Number 3, and this is a simple one, but listening to the wrong advice, particularly if you're a new investor or even if you've been doing it for a while. There's so many YouTube channels now. And look, I could probably throw myself into this basket. Like, I don't know everything. Plenty of experience back behind me, a love for the hobby, a love for collecting, a love for investing in it and watching prices and market movements. But I don't know everything. But be careful with whose advice you listen to. One of the ones that gets me all the time is these people that just have these videos. And look, you know, I've done the occasional one, but it's always backed up with evidence. But I watch some of these videos just to see what sort of argument they have behind these cards. And there'll be people like, just buy these 10 cards now, 10 cards about to shoot up in price. And it's like, why? Based off what? So, okay, you've picked 10 modern illustration rares or 10 modern special illustration rares from Scarlet and Violet era and a couple from Mega Evolution era. And it's like, based off what? Why would that card go up in price? Like, what's going to push a Mega Lucario EX from Mega Evolution base set up in price in the next 6 months? In my opinion, nothing. Like, nothing will push that card up. It's only going to come down as more supply hits the market, as we've seen in the last couple of months since that set's come out. Like, I just don't get videos off that. Like, please just be careful with who you listen to. Like, I get, 2 years ago, if someone had done a video saying, PSA 10 rare vintage low pop cards are going to go up in price over the next 2 years, in particular gold stars. And it was based off this evidence maybe around, someone saying, well, look, the people that had the drive and the nostalgia behind these cards, they're getting more affluent. They're arguably pushing into their early or mid or late 30s now. And as a result, maybe their income's driving up. Maybe they want one of these low pop PSA 10s as a really rare example to have in their collection. And they'll be willing to outbid other people. Things like Gold Star Rayquazas, low pop gold stars like Torchic, even some of the low pop Wizards of the Coast era cards. Like, it just makes sense to say some of those cards are very likely to go up in value over time because they're super rare and super collectible. What makes modern cards and sets that have literally just come out rare and collectible? Like, I'm sorry for picking on Mega Lucario EX, but what makes that card collectible? Okay, it's got a cool Pokemon, it's got a cool artwork, but it's not super rare. There's going to be more and more of them come on the market. To watch a video and say, invest in that card, based off what? Like, what's the argument behind that? So stop listening to bad advice, essentially. Be careful with the advice that you listen to. Before we jump into number 4, just wanted to give a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, which is, of course, the Collector app. There'll be a link in the description to download. It's an awesome app. As a pro user, they're giving away the biggest giveaway ever for the end of 2025. There is a first edition Wizards of the Coast booster box being given away. That is massive, a very, very expensive booster box. As a pro user, you also unlock so many cool features, like a lot of the ones I've shown on the screen up here throughout the video, like going all the way back and tracking data, and in particular set analytics all the way back 5 years. Like, looking at sets like Cosmic Eclipse and seeing its total set value from 5 years ago to where it is now, like, that's such important information as a collector and an investor. So again, there will be a link in the description into that for that app. Number 4, going into debt. Stop going into debt or making silly financial decisions over Pokemon cards. I've seen so many posts lately about people selling collections. They'll even have screenshots of their Collector app showing what the total value is, and say it adds up to $60,000 saying, look, not splitting up, we'll take $50,000. So essentially saying that they'll take 80% of market price if you buy it as bulk. It's the Christmas period, people probably need cash, and people are dumping product. And maybe they've spent too much. Maybe they've maxed out credit cards. Maybe they've dipped into their emergency funds to buy cards and went into debt and leveraged against credit to try and make money off this massive Pokemon bull market that we've seen. And now that it's slowed down a bit, people are dumping out collections. So by all means, enjoy collecting, enjoy investing, spend the money you have spare, but don't stop making silly decisions financially around it. Don't go into debt over it. Don't waste money on it that you don't have. That is tip number 4. And finally, number 5, Stop buying silly products off the shelves. There's an old saying in the car industry that we use is, if it was popular new, it's going to be popular secondhand. And I get it. There's some super rare new cars, like super rare, hyper, supercars that obviously don't sell high volume, but they're going to be special on the secondary market. That's a separate opinion, or separate area. But one of the sayings we talk about, popular new, popular secondhand. One of the most popular utes in Australia is the Toyota Hilux. And that is very, very popular as a secondhand vehicle. We cannot get enough of them secondhand on our used car lot. And the same rings true for Pokemon cards. If it's popular new and there's massive, massive hype and demand around a set because it's got awesome chase cards, or even a sealed product because it's an awesome ultra premium collection with sick promos inside there, it's going to be great on the secondary market. So stop buying stuff that's just stuck on the shelves that no one wants. And here's an example from me. I remember back in 2020, I bought 2 of these Alakazam V boxes. They're from Vivid Voltage era. Vivid Voltage set was quite hyped at the time, but think about it. Poor set in reality, poor promos inside there, and as a result, for 4 years, this sat at the exact same price, which was about $20 US, and only recently has it doubled in price. It took 4 years for that to even make a move for me. And even if I sold them now after shipping and the costs associated to it, it really wouldn't be worth my time. Like, what a waste of 5 years for that product. Alternatively, if you get a good product, and here's just one example, the Sea and Sky Premium Collection from Crown Zenith. So awesome packs, so good set, good pack selection, and cool promos inside there, like with Rayquaza and Kyogre, 2 of the legendaries. Like, this has already 4x'd from its base price of like $55 US to eclipsing $200 US in the space of a couple of years. Like, it shows that you shouldn't be buying poor stuff that no one wants. So that is tip number 5. There is 5 things you should stop doing in the Pokemon card investing space. I'm Michael. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into the channel, and I'll catch you next time.